We're back. It's week 9 of Talking Football. Jim Thomas here with the coach, the architect of the greatest show on turf, Mike Martz. Mike, happy Halloween to you, Buster.
Same to you. You handing out candy tonight, or is the wife doing it?
No, I'll do it in between watching the Blues hockey game. Mike, what do you think? Energizer Park is the name of the new soccer stadium there for St. Louis SC. You like the name?
Energizer Park?
Yeah, the battery. You know, the Energizer Bunny.
Oh yeah. It sounds like it's for old people.
I could use some energizing. I'll tell you what.
Right there, you see, gotta get Energizer Park. Go plug in.
Okay, we're officially week 9 will be mid-season. Let's look back on week 8 here in our first segment, as we always do on Talking Football. We'll get right to it. Mike, last week was a week of close games. 9 out of the 14 games that were played on Sunday, one possession games. We'll hit a few of the highlights here. Arizona beats Miami 28-27. Chad Ryland hits the game-winning field goal as time expired for the second week in a row. The Packers beat Jacksonville 30-27. Brandon McManus, who 2 weeks ago wasn't even on their roster as a kicker, he hit the game-winning field goal as time expired, second week in a row. Patriots 25, Jets 22. Ramondre Stevenson, the running back, he scores a touchdown with 22 seconds left. That ended a 6-game winning streak for the Jets. The Patriots had lost, like I said, 6 in a row, their most in 30 years. My God, that's a long losing streak. Another one, Atlanta 31, Tampa 26, right to the wire. Mike, if your guy Kirk Cousins, if he played Tampa every game, he'd throw like a million touchdowns. They played just a few weeks ago. He threw 4 touchdowns in that one. This last Sunday, 4 touchdowns against Tampa Bay. He's on fire, isn't he?
He is. You know, if they can play a little bit better on defense, which I thought they were at the beginning of the season, they'll be a playoff team. But, defensively kind of holds them hostage right now.
Another close one. Excuse me. Cleveland 29, Baltimore 24. Jameis Winston throws a 38-yard touchdown pass to Cedric Tillman with 59 seconds left. That snapped a 5-game winning streak for the Ravens and a 5-game losing streak for Cleveland. The very play before that, Baltimore safety Kyle Hamilton, interception thrown right in his hands, bobbles it, has another chance to catch it, falls to the ground. Mike, this was the biggest upset of the week, wouldn't you say?
I think it's the biggest upset of the year. This is a problem, though, I have with Baltimore. You just don't know who's going to show up. They've won some games where they really shouldn't have won, where they just didn't play very well.
Right.
A couple of weeks ago. And then like a week or so ago, they look just fabulous.
Yeah.
You don't know who's going to show up. And the thing that keeps them solid, that'll keep them, down to the very end, I think, is Derrick Henry. Defensively, they're gotten better than they were at the beginning of the season. They're starting to play to their abilities. Quarterback is really playing lights out. Getting the tight end more involved in the game. But I tell you, they go to sleep for a while, and then it's like they wake up.
Yeah, and Mike, there's been a couple teams like that too. But just when I thought, boy, the Ravens look like the best team in the league, right. They just can't put them away. Do they miss? Who's the coordinator? Is it Mike McDonald that left the defensive coordinator for Seattle? Do they miss him? Can you tell at all?
That's really difficult to say because I don't think it's changed quarterback at all. I think he's playing exceptionally well. They'd like to see him run the ball a little bit more.
You mean Lamar Jackson?
Right. I just think that.
No, I mean the defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, left.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's no question on defense. They're different. There's no question they're different.
Yeah. And the game of one of the games of the year, I think, especially for a low-scoring game, Washington 18, Chicago 15. Jaden Daniels scrambled for 13 seconds, Michael? Throws the ball, the tip drill. I want to ask you, I was going to the cornerback. I'm sure you saw it on Twitter, Tyreek Stevenson. Did you see the video where he's jaw-jacking with the fans? He's back there on defense at the goal line. he has his back turned to the play as Jaden Daniels is scrambling. Finally, he he sees what's going on, joins the play. He's the guy that tipped the pass that Noah Brown caught. Would he be on the Mike Martz Greyhound bus out of town after that?
No, no, not really. I think the thing that happened is when you practice that thing, and we practice it on offense all the time, you have what you call a setter, like in basketball. Your big guy, he's going to go up and he's going to try and catch it, or he's going to tip it. If
Right,
he can't, if he's in a group of 3 or 4 guys, you want him to tip, bump it up in the air.
right,
And you have a guy that goes down. We have 3 guys, one in front and one behind. Well, that's pretty universal. Well,
right,
defensively, the best thing you can do is you better man those other 2 guys up and have somebody next to him. Because if
right.
it gets tipped, you want to make sure you're there as well. And he's just standing free back behind it.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
enough defensive guys. You don't have to have 5 guys around the setter. You don't have to have that. But you got to have somebody who can jump.
They
At least
forgot
2
about
of
Noah. Have you ever lost one on a Hail Mary like that at any
no, but
stage?
won a couple on them. Yeah,
Yeah,
never lost one, but won a couple on it.
yeah, yeah. A couple of games I want to highlight. Rams Vikings. Let's go all the way back to the Thursday night. The Rams win 30-20. The Vikings, that looked like the best thing since sliced bread, have now lost 2 in a row. But Michael, the Rams are a different team when they have both Kupp and Nakua in the lineup, aren't
Yeah,
they?
no question about it. Especially with this little running back now. There's no question they're different. They're rolling now pretty good, and they'll go up and beat Seattle this week. And I think that this happens to teams. It happened to us in '99. About this time of year, you lose a couple games like this, close games, and then you just got to retool. It
Yeah.
happens. It's hard to keep that streak going.
Yeah, it's I know it's cliche, but it's a fine edge in the league between winning and losing. And if you're on maybe your B game, you may not win no matter who you're playing, right?
Right. And the thing that referring back to Baltimore, they've been on their B game and won anyway, which is
Yeah,
really a pretty good mark of a good team.
yeah. And the Chiefs, which we'll get to later, they've had a couple, I think, where they're on their C game and they keep they
Well, they
keep
have
winning.
they have love letters with the officials, I think, every week.
Speaking of officials, what did you think of the safety? Darnold clearly gets tugged. It looks like 1, maybe 2 of the officials are looking at him and somehow they miss it. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily changes the game, but it wouldn't have ended the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's so hard to describe because I've been on the competition meet for years and we've gone over this, and that shouldn't be a judgment call. It's clearly either you contact him or you don't. And how much and did it affect it? That's Mike Pereira deal. And that was all garbage. We threw that out. We nailed Mike Pereira on that in our meetings.
Uh-huh.
And since we've left, since Mike Holmgren and I left and Fish has left, we're the 3 of us. Mike, you can't know. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
That should never, pass interference should never, ever be a judgment call. It's clear. He contacted him before the ball got there. He didn't.
But I mean the face mask on Darnold. I mean his head's that's usually a pretty good sign, right? When your head's yanking back.
Yeah.
Do you in the UFL, a coach has one challenge where he can challenge any call, any play, and you can hold it. Would you like to see a rule like that in the NFL?
No, I think what they need to do is an egregious thing like that, and it was. They need to New York. They've got it. So happens like that, and they can do this without a problem. They can make a call to those officials and overturn that. They should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Not to have every call evaluated, but something that's that egregious, you ought to be able to make that change and rescind the call. And they've done that a little bit, by the way, in some of the turnovers too.
Right. Oh yeah, they call it replay assistant. Apparently, that play they said is not reviewable, which I don't understand why some things are reviewable and some are not. Mike, last thing I want to ask you about this game. Matthew Stafford throws 4 touchdown passes. I thought it was a master class in quarterbacking, just the way he looked off receivers. He went through his progressions. I know you love good quarterback play, and man, that was fun to watch Stafford in that game.
When you have a guy playing like that, there's always good protection. And then the receivers are playing pretty darn well too. And of course, they're on the same page now. And when it gets like that, they're just one. I know it sounds kind of home and all that stuff, but they just become one. He knows right where they're going to be. The ball comes out on time. There's great communication on the sideline. There's a great feeling they can't wait to get on the field. And when that happens, it's just fun to be around that. And that's where they are right now. They're just kicking it in gear. They're going to rise out of the ashes here this year. And I think they're going to end up having a hell of a year.
Yeah. The Sunday night game, I want to ask you about this. 49ers 30, Cowboys 24. We'll get to during the Ask Mike segment, we'll get to our picks, how we did. But you talked me. I was going Cowboys, and you talked me out of it. And it turns out you're right. The 49ers won. Brock Purdy, you said he would bounce back after 3 interceptions, and he did. He played very well, threw for TD, ran for TD. And at running back, boy, they just plug guys in. Jordan Mason goes down. Isaac Guerrero comes in, 14 carries, 85 yards, a touchdown. That was a much, much needed win for San Francisco, wasn't it?
No question. The one thing that people don't realize about San Francisco, and also I would say Detroit, is they understand running the ball better than anybody in the league. Mm-hmm. They're very specific about it. The backs understand where it's got to go. They're not indecisive. Everything is defined, and they hit it. They stay on blocks. The biggest deal when I watch those two teams play, Jim, the offensive linemen, and we used to talk to our guys about it, especially getting linemen down on linebackers. You don't need to knock them out. Just cover them up. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do. When you see these guys on linebackers, it's just like they're dancing them. They got them covered up. They're not pushing them. They're not trying to knock them out. They just get on them, and that's all a good back needs. And they just understand the details of how to run the football differently than I think everybody else in the league, those two teams.
Yeah. Conversely, and one of the things about Dallas, which you've been harping on for weeks, they can't run the ball. 19 for 56. I think they're averaging only like 74 a game. I mean,
they don't know how to run the ball. I think they're decent enough at running back. I don't know that the offensive line's very good. They're just not. I don't know what they are in offense. They're just kind of hot and pecking. It's not a Mike McCarthy offense. I don't know what they're doing. It's just hard to watch. It really is. They can't. It's like they're trying to find something that works in the running game, and they can't. They're just not getting it done.
Yeah. One other game, a team we haven't talked about a whole lot, but the Eagles 37, Bengals 17. The Eagles, they've won 3 straight now. 5-2. They scored on their last 6 possession. Jalen Hurts completed his last 13 passes of the game, including a 45-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Smith. Have they found something, or do you think they're starting to get back on track a little bit?
He has found something. This is the best he's played in 3 years. And last year he didn't play this good. The year before, kinda, but this is the best he's played. And they're getting healthy again at receiver. That's a big deal. Everything is based on what he does and how well he plays. Mm-hmm. Last year he didn't play well at all. Yeah. And right now you just put the hat on him because they're certainly underachieving every place else on defense.
Yeah.
In the running game, the offensive line. When he gets going, it just changes everything.
I think it helps too. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are back. Sometimes you come back from an injury, it takes a few weeks to get going. It looks like they're going.
Yeah, they're going good. And obviously that's a missing link like we talked about earlier. When you got that connection between a couple of wide receivers and the quarterback like that, and they're healthy again, and of course that's what they've missed. And it revitalizes the defense. The offensive line now has got hope, nothing worse than turn around and look and see your guy get hit or sacked as an offensive lineman. It's very frustrating. Or he's running around back there not throwing it. And that's what he was doing.
Yeah, that's got to be the worst feeling for an offensive lineman. Your quarterback gets plastered, gets sacked, and you got to go pick him up. What do you say? Like, sorry.
John Kitna told me once we were playing the Eagles, and he got blindsided from behind, and he told me when we were watching tape, the left tackle yelled, "John, look out!" Right? In the middle of the game, he whipped in the end, and John, look out! Wow.
That usually doesn't help, does it? Just the little advanced, the advanced warning. That's a look at some of the highlights of Week 8. We're going to be back after these messages to Ask Mike.
Montgomery St. Louis Acura has the vehicle you want. like the all-new 2025 MDX. Get the new 2024 RDX with financing as low as 3.9% or lease with no down payment and just $459 a month. Lease the electrified 2024 Acura ZDX for just $589 per month with zero down. We also have over 100 Acura certified pre-owned vehicles in stock. Munganess St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
We're back talking football. Our second season, Mike and I, first on Claves Online. You can get us on YouTube, Spotify, Claves Online. Gotten a lot of good response from the show. So we look forward to it. It's always a highlight of my week. Mike, how'd your golf go last week? You said you're going to play golf with some of your Fresno guys. How'd that go?
Yeah, well, my brother came back, and the guy played quarterback for us in college at Fresno. John Barnes came back, and it's all right. My knee still isn't healthy, so it's kind of hard to play. I didn't play all the time with him. I just rode in the cart the last day because I just couldn't. My knee was too sore, but it's just not doing very good.
Did you have a knee replacement or knee surgery?
No, I had a tear in the meniscus. They went and repaired it, and then there was some arthritis in there that he filed down a little bit, and I went and had it drained last Monday, and they said take 3 days off and let it heal while I played that day. So that probably wouldn't.
Michael, shame on you. So you would be questionable this week if you were still playing tight end, I guess.
No, I'm playing.
You're playing? You're out there? Last Sunday was National Tight End Day, by the way.
Thank you.
And you know what that means, JoJo, if you've got that, our favorite photo. There he is, National Tight End Day. Love those sideburns. That was kind of the thing back then, wasn't it, Mike? Everybody had those.
Yes, it was. Everybody had the burns going on. Mine were relatively short. Everybody had the chops, and then they had the Fu Manchu. That was kind of a big deal.
Yeah. I don't know if they were those were necessarily short, Mike, but 16 touchdowns by tight ends, 177 catches by tight ends. This is just last Sunday on National Tight End Day. Most by tight ends in a single day, according to the NFL. I don't know who keeps track of such stats, but
why would you?
Did you?
Why would you keep track of something like that? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, the Mike Martz Tight End Award of the week, the Mike Martz Tight End of the Week. This week, I give it to George Kittle, San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
6 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown in their win over the Cowboys. They really needed him. Obviously, Brendan Ayuk out for the season. Deebo Samuel, who just coming back from pneumonia, has a rib injury, can't finish the game. He really helped them in a big way, didn't he?
My gosh, he took off that ball a couple times. He outran everybody.
Yeah.
I know he's a good player, but my gosh, they have probably underutilized him because all the other guys that they have, I think, at times in the passing game. But, well, I tell you what, I put the saddle on him.
Yeah.
I really would.
Yeah. He really bailed him out. We talked earlier on Talking Football about how this is kind of the year of the field goal kicker. A really good article still up, I think, on the ESPN.com by Brooke Pryor about calling it the golden age of NFL kicking. But poor Greg the Leg, the former, he didn't get the memo about this being the year of the kicker. He for the Jets this past week, he shanked an extra point, then pulled a 44-yard field goal to the left. And poor Greg, who was so good, he was about 5 years, I think, after you were finished with the Rams, 4 or 5. He a lot of big kicks, but he was put on IR this week. He's missed 6 field goals, which is the most in the.
So let me ask you. Let's say he makes the extra point and the field goal. What happens with the Jets?
They win, right?
So now, if he makes those kicks, all the stuff that's being said is muffled. You know what I mean? That's how crazy it is.
Mike, he missed a couple the week before in a close loss, so they could have a couple more wins.
They could be 2-0 in the last 2 games if he makes kicks, and yet now it's so crazy. And once that stuff gets snowballing in the media, people believe that stupid stuff.
Well, blame it on us, huh, Mike? Thanks.
No, I'm talking about the talking heads, guys that should know better. These guys that played football.
Yeah,
I'm listening to them, and it's a lack of coaching. It's this, it's that.
Yeah.
No, the guy threw for 350 yards.
It's amazing though, all the planning and preparation that goes into the game. All the guys out there banging into each other. And then it comes down to a kicker who has a tough job. Sometimes I'll be sitting there for a half an hour of actual time, and I'll say, okay, go out there, kick the game winner. Not an easy job.
No, it's not. And it takes a unique personality to do that. I mean, you've got to be able to handle that kind of pressure. Not all of them can.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a little bit like a golf swing. They can get the shanks and all that kind of stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Wookie happened to Jeff when I was, you know, he missed an easy one up in Kansas City on a blowout loss we had. They came back and I called him in the office and we went at each other a little bit. He called me out. He did. He called me out. I said, you got to do a better job of coaching. I thought, you know, you're right. I do have to do a better job of coaching. I went out in the field with him and I don't know anything about kicking.
Right.
And I was watching him. I said, I'm going to watch you in your warm-up kick because I got so many things going. That's the last thing I'm watching, right?
Right.
Warm up with PATs, and he starts moving the ball back and moving it back. And all of a sudden, he starts missing from back behind. And I said, listen, I don't know anything about this. I'm going to tell you this, Jeff. On your extra points, when you hit those things, if you take the same stroke, that ball goes so far in your extra points, just take the same stroke when it's back here. He just kind of looked at me and said, why are you changing your swing?
Yeah.
You have plenty of leg on the extra point to make it from, you know, a 45-yard kick.
Yeah.
And he did, and it worked. But it was something that's stupid and simple.
Kicking
So
coach.
Why would you change? Why would you do what you do?
Yeah, no, I've always wondered that. When they're closer, do they put a little less on the ball, put a little bit more? It should be the same, right?
Should be. You know, you start changing all that stuff and you control it. Just like when I was coaching in college, this punter, we're trying to get him to drop it inside the 20 and roll out of bounds. And he was shanking the ball off his foot and all kinds of stuff. And I said, what are you doing? I said, well, on the field, you don't have any problem with this. And he said, well, you know, I'm trying to put it in the corner. I said, well, just turn your body a little bit over there and kick it. He looked at me, what? What? Nobody told him that. Just turn a little bit there when you kick it. And guess what? The ball's going to go there, right? That's how stupid things can get like that. Little things like that get overlooked or missed or just crazy stuff.
So did you fire your special teams coach after that with Wilkins? No. Isn't that what the special teams coach is for? Huh?
He has a lot going on too, by the way. There should be a guy just for kicking, actually.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I think it was Austin Siebert, the kicker of the Commanders, who one of the early games, he kicked 7 field goals, and I was reading a little something about him. He has a private coach, like a private instructor, separate from the team special teams coach. Is that normal or is that
no? But it should be that way. It's like golf. Professional golfers, they all have their coach, right? And that's a unique deal with kickers. And I've always believed that if you got a punter and a kicker, you ought to have somebody that you can bring in for 2 days out of the week just to work with them. You know what I mean? They don't have to be in meetings or anything, like just to work with them. You know, it would be worthwhile and well worth the money because these guys, you know, first of all, most kickers over kick in pre-game warm-up.
Kick too much?
Oh yeah, they're fanatics about it. Punters too. And you got to calm them down a little bit. You know, I mean, there's a psychological part of that goes with the training with these guys, coaching them too. So I think if I ever did that again, that's what I would do. I'd have somebody at least 2 days out of the week when they're kicking, come in there and deal with that.
Interesting. You know, in my hockey covering days, I found that like each goalie has their own goalie coach. There'll be a goalie coach for the Blues, but like Jordan Bennington has his own private coach. Now, normally, to avoid, you know, bumping heads, they'll just work with their private goalie coach in the off season. But sometimes, you know, maybe the goalie coach will see something during the game and call them up or whatever. But private coach is probably a good thing. Well, let's get on to Ask Mike here. You can send your questions in every week to me on Twitter at JTom1 or email jtom72@outlook.com. We enjoy getting them. We get a lot of good ones. We got a couple this week. Greg from Glen Carbon, which is over in the Edwardsville area, has a question about the Browns quarterback situation. He said the Browns seem to respond to Jameis Winston. Is this a statement on how they feel about Deshaun Watson? Do players maybe sometimes simply like other quarterbacks better than others? I mean, let's face it, Winston looked great with the same team, right?
Absolutely. Happens all the time. I've been through that many, many times, and particularly in college. It happens all the time. Coaches fall in love with the ability of a guy, but the guy that moves the team, the guy that they respect more and want to play for, it's somebody else. You know, I told you that story years ago. I was at Pacific. We had a 6'5" guy that came to us from Stanford, and we had a guy that was 5'9".
Right.
We ended up going with the guy at 5'9" because the players loved him. And he just won. There's nothing wrong with the other guy, but they responded to this kid, and that happens. It happens in the NFL. It happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I'm thinking too, Kevin Stefanski, the coach of the Browns, he turned over play calling to Ken Dorsey. Maybe that helped Winston a little bit. You never gave up play calling, did you, Mike? Turned it over.
I wanted to, because it just got at the end. There's too many things going on, I wanted to hire Norv Turner, but by that time, he'd gotten another head job, and I did. And when I hired Steve Fairchild, that's what I was hoping to do, but that just didn't work. You had a different thought about offense. So
right. Was there ever a time in like a preseason game where you just said, "Hey, I don't know, John Rand, hey John, call the plays here"?
I wanted to, but they were scared to death of doing it. I tried to. They just wouldn't. He just was not interested in it.
Well, Mike, you're a little bit of a tough act to follow when it comes to.
Well, no, I just think that if you've been in the system with somebody for a long time, it'd be like Ernie Zampese turned to me and said, "Okay, Mike, who would you call this game preseason?" I could do that if it wasn't him, but with him there, I'd be scared to death.
Yeah.
And I think when you're close like that to a situation, it'd be hard for these guys to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we got another one here. Billy from Baldwin, kind of a sit or play question. How do you know? And I think he's probably referring to maybe the Bryce Young and also Anthony Richardson, young quarterbacks that have struggled. How do you know when to play a young quarterback? How do you know when he's ready to play or if he needs to sit and watch?
Well, I would never play a young quarterback unless we absolutely had to. I just wouldn't do it. There's just so much that they have to sit and watch and learn, unless he's just truly, truly special guy like Stroud, for instance, or Herbert. I think initially when the season starts, if they can keep them in a learning process and the mental part of it, learning what to do when the ball's snapped, that's everything. The abilities, obviously they have the ability, it would be there, but the ability to process quickly under pressure is everything. And you don't really know that until they have learned it well enough to go in and just react instead of thinking about things. And that's, if you can get a young guy that can learn it quickly and doesn't have to think about it, that they're truly unique. And you can see it in San Francisco. You can see that in Houston. And of course, Herbert was that way. But that's so unusual.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think Richardson's ready, to answer your question. He doesn't come from an environment that throws the ball a lot, that, in a pro type of attack. And I just don't think, especially when they're struggling at times, he feels the pressure. He's just not mature enough to handle that yet.
And he hardly played in college. I think he had maybe 10 starts in college.
Yeah, he's just not ready for that. And I think you have to take that into consideration. But the ownership, when he came in, they were very clear about they want him to be the guy. And that's just added pressure for him as well. And they don't realize that. So that's unfortunate, because I think he could be a pretty good player. Guys go through this, get beat up. Sometimes they won't realize their ability until they end up with another team.
Yeah, some of the stuff I read about the change in Indy while we're on the topic is, they're giving up on the guy. You know what? They're 4-4. They're trying to win games. They still have a chance. Maybe you think it's to make the playoffs. And Joe Flacco's been, 40 years? He's been very effective. He's been as good now as he's ever been in his career.
Yeah, he has been. And I think to sit and watch him and to learn from him. And I think, too, it's embarrassing to be sat down like that when you're number one pick, right?
Yeah.
It's embarrassing for you. And you have to get beat up and slapped down a little bit to say, okay, enough's enough. Because all the pressure of it and all that stuff is there. And then all of a sudden, when you sit down, you finally have enough. I had enough of this. I know I'm good enough in here. That's why I always like those guys that have been beat up a little bit, low draft picks, for instance, and bounced around. That's something to prove. He's got to get to the point where he's got something to prove before he becomes a good player.
Yeah, Warner's a great example of that. Even Trent Green was an 8th round draft pick. There's not even 8 rounds in the draft. Right. Mark Bulger, not drafted, right? Wasn't he signed by the Saints?
He was a 7th round pick, I think, from New Orleans. I think
that's right. That's right.
he ended up in Atlanta. We took him off their roster.
Yeah. Did you ever work with a highly drafted, like a first rounder? Try to
Smith,
think.
yeah, at San Francisco, but he never made it into the season. He ended up getting surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But he'd been through so many coordinators. He was a mess. He didn't. And what I expected out of him mentally, he wasn't prepared for it. He used to go and say, I read an article later about how much he disliked playing for him because he went home and he just felt, overwhelmed and emotionally distraught, and
Right.
he had at that time in his life, he had a different idea of, standards.
Right. I just think looking from afar after you left St. Louis, some of your best work had to be John Kitna. Getting John Kitna, didn't he have back-to-back 4,000-yard passing seasons?
Yeah, he did. I think he's only like the 9th guy in the history of the league to do that. And we were a bad team.
Yeah.
That says a lot about John now, because it's not like we had the who's who at wide receiver too. Mike Furry led the NFC.
Turned Mike Furry into a 1,000-yard receiver there, Michael.
Yeah, 100 catches or whatever it was for 1,000 yards. And, the year before that, he was playing safety with the Rams. So, yeah.
All right. I'm allowed to ask Mike, and I have one. Jim from Oakville. Mike, candy corn, pro or con? How do you feel about it as a Halloween candy?
That's the best. That's the best.
You love it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was a big favorite when I was a kid. Candy corn and the Rice Krispie treats, the candied apples, all that stuff. We used to mark the houses ahead of time when I was a kid, where we knew mom was going to do some cooking. That is an old neighborhood in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, right? So it's not like
So you know where they were giving out the Rice Krispie treats.
We hit those houses first before they ran out, because you're going to have to do that for a while. Yeah.
Good strategy. Now, me with candy corn, I have kind of a law of diminishing returns. I like it, but the more I have, the less I like them. So I just have to limit how many I have. Now, before we go on and look at week 9 and take a break, we always summarize our picks. Last week, for the first time ever, Mike, you and I had the exact same picks. First time we never had different picks. So we kind of sank or swam together, and we both went 5-3. Not bad. Now, we missed on the Vikings and the Rams. Now, my excuse here, when we taped the show, record the show, we did not know Nakua was playing, or if he played, it was going to be limited. He went nuts. I mean, he played a lot.
I was in the impression he was not playing, but that doesn't matter. I mean, I still make the pick, but still, I'm not sure I'd have made that pick because he's that big of a difference.
Yeah. And then we missed Ravens-Brown, like you said, upset of the year. And then the other one, Washington-Bears. Well, again, when we recorded, I know I'm making excuse. We didn't know Daniels were going to play. Remember, he was originally described as week to week, which means that you're going to miss at least one game, but he gutted it out.
But I still think I would pick the Bears. I just think Caleb Williams he's that one guy that's on that upper trend. And you could see it in the last couple of series.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And why they will put a lineman, this befuddles me, who's never carried the ball on the most critical situation in the game and turn around trying to hand him the ball on the 1 yard. Are you kidding? What's wrong with you guys? I mean, that's crazy.
Sometimes you can get a little. Yeah. That was bizarre. And again, it took a tremendous Hail Mary, maybe the play of the year so far in the National Football League to beat him. Okay, we'll be back after these messages to talk Week 9. There's some great matchups.
Let me get this straight. Graybar is a distributor?
Yep. For more than 150 years, we supported electrical and datacom projects all over the country.
So you can get me products wherever and whenever I need them?
Yep. Thanks to our expansive national logistics network.
For any industry?
Yep. From construction sites and industrial plants to schools, hospitals, and just about everything in between.
So you could say Graybar is much more than a distributor?
Yep, you could say that.
They really do it all.
Yep. When you need a hand powering, connecting, or maintaining your operations, join the thousands of professionals who rely on Graybar to help keep them up and running. Yep, Graybar does that.
We are back, Week 9, officially kind of the midpoint of the season. Steelers and 49ers, two of the better teams in the leagues, have byes. We're back to teams taking their bye weeks. Mike, the Week 9, the home team is favored in 10 of 15 games. I know the home team is is usually favored more often than not, but 10 out of 15 seems to be a lot. We always start out with the Thursday night game. And if you've noticed, and if you haven't, you're forgiven. Mike and I only make picks on about half the games. We usually pick out all the primetime games and other ones that interest us. But the Thursday night game tonight, Texans 6-2 at the Jets 2-6. So we mentioned the Jets will have a new kicker with Greg DeLay on IR. Texans playing without Stephon Diggs. Big injury there for the Texans. Torn ACL. The Jets won last year 30-6. And these teams don't play that often. They've only, the Texans haven't been around forever. Texans lead the series 3-2. Mike, surprisingly, to me at least, the Jets are favored by 2 in this one.
They should be. I think they'll win this game. I think there's a big problem right now in Houston with the offensive line. They're not playing very well.
Yeah.
And Nixon's struggling to run game, and he shouldn't because he's a terrific back. Really struggling to run the football. And without both receivers, basically, the other one's out too, I believe. So they're missing their 2 starters. Offensive line's not.
Oh, yeah. Nico Collins has been out forever.
Yeah. Well, I think, and being on the road up in New York, and really the Jets should be 2-0 right now.
Yeah.
They didn't have the kicking woes and all those baloney that's out there being said about them. They'd be 2-0 right now if they just made some kicks.
Yeah.
So I'm picking the Jets.
Picking the Jets. And I think you and I disagree a little on this. I think Rodgers has been so, but you're the quarterback expert. You have no problems with how he's played, have you?
He's played very well. He's got to get guys. It's just like when Brady went down to Miami. Initially there was a lot of disconnect with the receivers. They weren't where he, there's those guys are so used to being tuned into specifics about what these guys are. Like we're talking about LA, right? With the Rams and those reasons. That's got to happen. And one of the reasons Devontae's there, he's going to help him do that.
Yeah. And now this is their third week with Devontae or second week at least. So he should be more into it. So Mike picked the Jets. I'm going to go be contrarian. I'm going to go Texans. Okay. Early game on Sunday, Cowboys 3-4 at the Falcons 5-3. Falcons are 2.5-point favorites. I would think if they get that two-headed monster of Robinson and how's it pronounced? Algier going. We've talked. Mike's talked more than once about how teams that run the ball can put damage on the Cowboys. What do you think about this one, Mike?
Well, the matchup there to me is the Cowboys' inability to rush the football against a team that struggle against the run. So
okay.
That's a big plus for Atlanta because they won't be taking advantage of that weakness. So I think that's important, and I just think Atlanta's a better team right now.
Yeah. So you're picking Falcons then, huh?
Falcons, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go Falcons as well. Another early game, AFC East, Dolphins 2-5 against the Bills 6-2. The Bills are 6-point favorites. This is a long-standing series. These teams will meet for the 123rd time. The Dolphins once won 20 in a row in this series in the 70s, which was the longest streak. It maybe it's still the longest streak in history. Remember, Mike, you as offensive coordinator and then as head coach snapped a 17-game losing streak to San Francisco. But currently, it's all the other way. The Bills have won 12 out of 13. The Bills won, Thursday Night Football, 31-10. Tua is back, though. What do you think about this one? To me, it's an interesting matchup just because Tua is back, and he helps equal.
Cook is back, too. So,
pardon me?
I think Cook is back, too, right? The running back at
yes.
And they've missed him for a while, and he came back, I think, last week. But, no, I just think that you know what a fan I am of the Bills.
Yeah.
And I think that they're just too good a team right now. I don't think Miami can, even with Tua there, I just don't think it's going to work for them.
And up in Buffalo where the Bills are so good. So Mike picks the Bills. I pick the Bills. Josh Allen finally threw an interception last week. The nerve of that guy. How about him? He took the quarterback room to the World Series game. I don't know if you saw that. Pretty cool deal.
Yeah.
You ever take your quarterbacks out to dinner or anything?
I over dinner all the time, and we had a Christmas party for them and all that stuff. Yeah, we used to do that.
At home, a Christmas party?
We had
Really serving the cocktails or what?
no cocktails, but it was a nice. She's a good cook, as you can probably tell.
Yes. And you should take sports writers out to lunch. I remember during the spring a couple times you'd walk down there. It was like during the OTAs or whatever, and there'd be you remember the guys, RB Falstrom, Steve Cordy, myself, and you'd say, "Come on, let's go get some lunch." And I remember one of the it was a little hole in the wall in St. Charles, a Mexican place. It was great food, though.
The best Mexican food in the Midwest, I promise you. It's so much like we used to get in San Diego or across the border. It was just a real deal. They didn't speak English. Only one guy back there spoke English.
Yeah.
We just point to the menu.
Mike, you liked us. You couldn't help yourself, right? You liked us writers, didn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Of course.
Some of us anyway, right? What was it? Yibbit, but that I remember that.
It came across when that was cut out. I was just having fun with you. I was in a great mood and I was teasing you, but that came across as being some sort of a goofy thing. But
I know. And I know when you're joking, I know you well enough, but people are like, boy, he really got you that day. And I'm like, oh,
I was just teasing.
Just playing around.
Yeah.
Let's see. Some of the other games, Commanders at the Giants. That was a game where Siebert kicked they played in week 2. I'm not really asking to make a pick there. I'm looking at my notes here.
I think a big game is the Rams at Seattle. And that's a big game. And I would pick the Rams there. The Rams are healthy. Seattle's reeling. They're so one-dimensional on offense. And they have the ability to run the ball, but they won't. I think that bubble.
So you're picking Rams there?
Yes.
I'm going to go Rams too. You know, that NFC West is really a toss-up. You keep thinking San Francisco will get healthier and get going, but you have 3 teams that are 4-4. The Rams are 3-4. They've already had their bye. And you mentioned one dimension. Seahawks, Geno Smith still leads the league in passing yards. I mean, they pass way too much. They're just to be one-dimensional. I think you have to be great at it. Your teams were good enough that if you had to run the ball, you could run the ball. If you had to simply pass the ball like you did in Super Bowl 34, you could do that. Seattle isn't good enough to pull that off. Plus, DK Metcalf has that very good receiver, sprained MCL. Maybe he returns this week. We don't know. The Seahawks are taking on some water too, Mike. 4 of the last 5 they've lost. They're yielding 30.4 points per game in that 5-game stretch. So they're having troubles on defense too.
They're not going to slow them down. And I just think that a team like that, like you said, it's fine to throw the ball like that as long as you can turn around and win a game by running the ball.
Right.
You can switch gears and do that. But they're not able to do that right now, unfortunately.
Another big game, Broncos at the Ravens. Both teams are 5-3. I should mention the Broncos are 3-1 away from home. So the road usually hasn't bothered them. We talked about this when Washington played the Ravens, how Washington maybe was playing up in class. Their victories before that game came against teams that, weren't that good or hadn't been that good, although it was a very good game. Well, the Broncos have won 5 of their last 6, but only 1 of those 5 wins have come against a team with more than 2 wins so far. But saying all that, Mike, you have to give Bo Nix some credit. He's really developed, hasn't he?
He has. You have to look at us in 99 too. That was the story of the Rams in 99. We didn't play anybody. Yeah. When you look at the teams that we played for the most part, we probably had the weakest schedule in the league that year. Mm-hmm. Or one of the weakest. But yeah, Bo Nix I told you when he came out, he was probably my favorite for, the position he was in Denver. It was a great matchup there with the head coach, with Sean and him. I thought that was a match made in heaven for him. And he is. He's getting used to it. He's learning the game better. This could be the upset of the week.
You're going to go Broncos here?
No, I'm going to go with the Ravens, but I'm just going to tell you it could be.
But you have upset alert. The Ravens are favored by 9.5. In the NFL, you get close to double-digit point spreads. That's a lot. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Ravens too. They add, by the way, Deontay Johnson, a Pro Bowl wide receiver. This dude's been traded twice since the preseason, so I don't know. Maybe he's got bad breath or something, but He's been traded twice. So now you have Johnson, you have Zay Flowers, you have Bateman, who's been pretty good. You have Andrews, besides the 1-2 punch of Jackson and Derrick Henry. As we go on in the season, that's a pretty good group of receivers. You still see the potential for the Ravens to be a team there when the dust settles at the end, don't you?
I think at the beginning of the season, when we talked, I thought that they would be the team at the end in the AFC Championship.
Right.
And I think they're the team that'll beat Kansas. I think they're the team that'll end up in the Super Bowl, to be honest with you. But they get here early in the season, some of the, their performances have been subpar, to say the least.
Head scratching, very, very much head scratching in this unpredictable week. Okay, a 3:05 game, afternoon game. The Bears 4-3. Again, they've had a bye at the Cardinals. 4-4. The Cardinals are a 1.5 point favorite. The Cardinals they're perking a little bit. They've won 3 of their last 4, but by a combined 4 points. They've won those 3 games by 1 point, 1 point, and 2 points. But Kyler Murray's on a little bit of a heater, as they say, wouldn't you say?
He's everything. That whole team is on his shoulders, on his back. Without him, I don't know if they can win a game, to be honest with you. And he is he's such a gifted athlete, aside from being a terrific passer. I mean, he really is, and probably doesn't get enough credit in the league for what he's done. But Caleb Williams, the way he's played in the second half last week, and the way the Bears are now on defense, and now they're handing the ball off and doing what they should do in the running game. I just think Bears win this game, even though I think it's in Phoenix. So
it's in Phoenix, which I don't think it though is a great home field advantage comparatively speaking. Yeah, I'm gonna go Bears as well. Colts at the Vikings. Anthony Richardson, as we mentioned, benched after going 10 for 32. Flacco to start. Vikings lost last 2. They're 5.5 point favorites. That's a Sunday night game. What do you think, Mike?
For the simple reason that the Vikings on a quarterback that's not mobile will have a field day. The guys that can move around back there because they're pressure defense, or people that can run the football very, very well, because that's what you do against a pressure team like them. You have to use 2 tight ends and be able to gut them and run the ball, get them out of all that stuff. And because of that, I just think, and the Vikings are obviously a good team. I think the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm going to go Vikings too. Monday night game, Bucks 4-4 at Chiefs 7-0. Chiefs are surprised it's this much of a spread. Again, they're 9 point favorites. We get our odds from ESPN. DeAndre Hopkins' second game with KC. We'll think they'll work him in more. Obviously, no Evans or Godwin in the passing game, but Baker Mayfield keeps throwing touchdown passes. He's thrown a league high 21 touchdown passes. We talked about this a little bit last week. They went to Cade Otton, the tight end. He had 9 catches, and 2 of them went for touchdowns in last week's loss. And they're using wide receiver Bucky Irving, who's a pretty good he caught 7 passes. That was in their loss to the Falcons. But, Mike, the Chiefs still finding a way to win, and then they use Travis Kelce a lot more. What do you think on this one?
They are, and he's lost a step or 2. He's not nearly what he's been in the past. It's one of the reasons why they're not using him that much. But I do think that Baker Mayfield has thrown some pretty ugly picks here when he gets behind.
Yes, yeah, he does throw some candy up, as they say.
When he gets behind, he gets into that, and he just tracked him his whole life has been like this. So, yeah, you like to see him pulling off an upset here. I don't think so. I think Kansas City obviously wins this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kansas City. Okay, our and let's see. We already went over Rams Seahawks. The last one is the game of the week: Lions at Packers. Lions 6-1. They're 3.5 point favorites. This NFC North matchup. The Packers are 6-2. These teams are meeting for the 190th time. Jared Goff is, and you pointed this out last week. He's not throwing because our running game's so good and they've been getting the leads a whole lot. He's just not throwing incompletions. Mike, in their last 5 games, the Lions as a team, they've scored more touchdowns, 24, than he's thrown incompletions, 20. They're looking like the greatest show right now to me, Mike. They're the
closest thing since they are the closest thing since I think we were there. So, Yeah, I think they're in the perfect storm right now. They throw the ball because they want to, which is a great feeling. Great offensive line, the two-headed snake they've got, and they've fixed some of the damage in the secondary over there. It's not quite completely fixed, but the rookie corner they got playing good. Defensively, I love those two linebackers. Even without Hutch, they're formidable, and I think they'll represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Wow. And they're kind of your team. Campbell's kind of your boy, right? From
Yes.
your days with Detroit.
We can just put that in ink the rest of the season. My pick is always going to be the Lions.
What they could be playing the 85 Bears or the 62 Packers, and you'd still go Lions, right?
Lions. Yeah. The other thing is this coordinator, you mark my words, he'll end up being the head coach at the Cowboys next year.
Cowboys, how you heard it here first on Talking Football with JT and Mike Martz. And Jordan Love, we're not sure if he's going to play. He says he's going to try to play with a groin injury. They seem to do fine with Malik Willis. It's a much different kind of look, but
yeah, I'd send a limo and make sure he got to the stadium if I was the Detroit Lions. It doesn't make any difference. Or whoever you want back.
Who are you sending a limo for, Jordan Love or Malik Willis?
Both.
Yeah.
Make sure you get to it because it doesn't make any difference. All that stuff doesn't matter.
So the Lions, and even Jameson Williams has been suspended. He's got some other legal. They don't miss him. No. And he's a hell of a threat. We're going to leave a little early here. Mike has to go out, get some more Halloween candy or something. But we'll say goodbye for Talking Football. It's gone by quick. We'll talk to you all next week.
Thanks, Jim.
Are you ready for a challenging and rewarding career? There are quality jobs in the construction industry.
I got out of college and my career choices were very limited, and this provided me with a plan for the present and the future at the same time.
I actually have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I was making less than I make as a first-year apprentice painter.
I didn't go to college. I have no college debt. I make more money than the majority of people I know that went to college.
Take your first step towards a rewarding career. Visit stlouispdf.org.